Here. Okay. John Urban, College of Science, and a collector of Markham memorabilia. Yeah, it's great. He's got a few things to show us. Thank you.
I write myself, and I've chosen a couple of Markham poems to read, and I have a couple of my own, and I also have some of the memorabilia that I've collected of Markham's. A lot is still not known about the man and his work, so I have these items to show you so that the appreciation for what he has done can be seen. He was quite good at the short poem, and he was good at other things also. But I'm going to read two of these short ones. This one is on poems, or about the art of poetry, called Posey. She comes like the hushed beauty of the night, and sees too deep for laughter. Her touch is a vibration in a light, from worlds before and after. This one's a little more somber. It was to a friend of his, David Lubim. It says, "There is a destiny that makes us brothers. None goes his way alone. All that we send into the lives of others comes back into our own. I care not what his temples or his creeds. One thing holds firm and fast, that into his fateful heap of days and deeds, the soul of man is cast." It was mentioned by one of the earlier speakers, the work that he had done with the children's labor movement. And here's a copy of the book, Children in Bondage, that he authored with a couple of other individuals. That book was mentioned. And has a really wonderful picture in the beginning, in the front of the book, that I think could be used in some of the social movements today. I'll pass the book around so you can take a look at it, but it's got the temple or monument of prophet and someone who has been sacrificed to that prophet. He also was a novelist, and this is a copy of a book he wrote called He Who Passed. His son was also a novelist, and this is an interesting book in the sense that it's written from the point of view of a woman. It's her autobiography, and she writes the story of her life, and that is also by Markham, called He Who Passed. I found various pictures, many of them from the news services across the country. Here is one of him when he was flying through the country and giving readings, meeting people, working with organizations. That's him about to board one of the early plane services. Here's one of my favorite poses of him. I like to call him the Walt Whitman of San Jose. No, I think this says that. Also not commonly known is the fact that he read at the opening of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. And this is a souvenir that was available at the time. It's a copy of his poem, Lincoln, the Man of the People. And it's a copy of his handwriting and signed by him. This was available at the reading at the opening of the Lincoln Memorial. I also have a picture taken at the memorial that day. It's in the Smithsonian files, and it's taken from the rear view of him standing there before the crowd in the Washington Plaza. Another attractive picture of him. He was very fond of hats, and sometimes he had some great cowboy hats that he wore. In his early days, he'd actually worked on ranches. He'd worked on ranches up in the North Bay, and so I guess that's part of his heritage, was the hats that he wore. And this is him meeting with, I don't know who, but probably someone, one of the poetry societies or social movements, him discussing things with her at the table. One last work I'd like to point out, and this might be an interesting thing. I've never heard or seen this before. It's called Undine. It's called a lyric tone poem in one scene for women's voices, soprano and tenor, to be accompanied by an orchestra, piano solo, with a piano solo or piano alone. It has a long text associated with it, and this poem is not usually published in his collected works. It's somewhat of a cosmic dialogue between the earth and the sea, and an undine, a water sprite, who is considering her destiny with someone on the shore. And I think this poem ought to be more widely known. It has, there's about 50 pages of music written by a woman named Harriet Ware. So it's kind of a rare copy of things. Okay, I hope you enjoyed those. I'll read a couple of my own poems at this point. This is one I wrote when I was younger. It's called Summer Passage. And it's in five short segments. Summer Passage. Nice shipyard fills with stars. The streets, crouching, splattered sheets of shadow. Washed in sound, soft as light. Side by side we walk. Soft, dappled talk. Through an open window of moonlight. She is so pale, so moonlight. A fingertip touches bronze, bone bead, a gong. Poseidon's circle blossoms, a whirlpool, its song. Brimming with the question, a window wavers with reflected fire, glimmering in the humid city twilight. This house, who lives here? In these unsettled embers of softly feathered heats, of pulsing reds and blues.